So it's all done. We're ready. Almost everybody comes down, ready to rave through the night. We welcome them, fetch them a drink, turn on the music. Some start to dance, others are still coming. So we take out their great idea. I plug it in, and with that, all goes down, as if somebody blew out a candle. Silence and darkness. Like, even the hum of the engine slowly faded. As a few seconds went by, I finally had the idea to plug the big TV out, and everything turned back on, music started playing again, even the engine. But nobody said anything until Corey looked at me and said, "Well, that was fucking close."
This is Emma, a charming, enthusiastic young woman, and also our ticket into a world that's so different from what we're used to, it's almost hard to believe. Welcome to Up in the Sky, a documentary podcast where Emma and many others will tell us the story of great determination, of the need for change, and ultimately of great love. However, this tale begins much earlier than Emma's story about a party gone wrong. A long time before that, I received an email from an unknown address that simply said, "I think I have a story, one that might be interesting to you," and a phone number. No signature, no greeting. Now, to many, this might appear to be spam, but to me, it felt different. To this day, I can't explain why, but I picked up the phone and called. Contrary to my hopes, however, there was no answer. There was no answer on the second, third, or the 15th time.
No one is available to take your call. Please leave a message.
But just when I decided to forget about it all, hours later, somebody picked up the phone.
Who's this?
Hi. The reporter you emailed a few days ago. You said you had an interesting story.
I'm in a bit of a hurry. Could I call you later? No, forget it. Sorry, let's do it now. So there's this community. They're super nice. I think it's better than what you were talking about on the podcast before. By the way, thank you for calling. Really, I appreciate it. There are some principles, but nothing is enforced and so on. So it would really be best if you could come see this for yourself. It's a shame if you can't. So we all worked together in this circle, and when we started, everything was arranged, so we were all looking at each other, and the dynamic became such that we were able to express ideas, and everything was sort of this...
Can I perhaps visit this community? It seems more practical than talking on the phone.
That's going to be complicated.
Why?
It's an Airbus 320.
Come again?
An airplane. It's an airplane in the sky.
I mean, for me, remembering our plane brings instant feeling of being really free.
Again, Emma.
Not worrying if everybody agrees on this and that, because you knew they did. Not because there was a powerful leader or enforced rule of the majority. Everything just clicked. It's hard to explain to somebody who wasn't there.
Of course, but please do go on.
When somebody gets sick, we as humans naturally want to help them as much as we can, right? If you have some skills, you want to use them to the benefit of everyone else. It worked as a finely tuned machine. We're like an organism, breathing, living.
I wasn't sure how to feel about this story, or even if I believed it. The connection of freedom and the invention of flight just seemed to be such a perfectly tailor-made metaphor. Too good to be true. And there was this great question. How did it all begin? It really sounds beautiful, but I have to ask, how did you get to such a point?
And I knew you would ask that. There are probably different answers to that, but I think it started with the common meals. One day, I wake up, not in a good mood. My hair was getting long. It was a few weeks when I had my last proper shower. You know, just the general feeling of self-neglect. Anyway, I get up, walking towards the kitchen when I see everybody else sitting around at this weird table. Very crude, part aluminium, part some first-class shelves, all tied up. So everybody's sitting there, eating their breakfast like it was usual. I didn't want to be rude, so I just sat with them. And just like that, we started talking. Like, where are you from? What is your favorite food? Even like some serious stuff, like, what are your life goals? They told me one of the cooks made it. I'm grateful to him or her because thanks to that table, I forgot about my smelly hair and sticky armpits and just enjoyed the morning. For me, that's the moment that kickstarted the community, meeting 3 times a day to eat together.
Can you maybe better describe for me the production and cooking of those meals?
I mean, nothing complicated really. You just take the pre-made stuff from the kitchen, peel off the plastic, maybe season it a little and put it into the microwave. What did you think we did? Build a community farm on an airplane?
However, significant changes were made to the aircraft's interior.
The dinner table, storage, the rooms obviously, masks.
This is Bolton, another passenger. He will tell me his point of view regarding the beginning of this idiosyncratic community's history.
I mean, not to give myself any medals, but I personally believe that was the beginning. The room construction especially. It might sound counterintuitive to you that people in such a loving community would want to separate themselves into their own rooms, but this was before those common meals, meetings, parties. It was just a group of nervous people on a plane. There's a nice story about that, actually.
Go ahead.
Because this happened quite soon after we got onto the plane. A few days, maybe like 2 weeks? And it wasn't mayhem, don't imagine some apocalypse, but it wasn't very good. It was a time of uncertainty. The hum of the engines, turbulence, dry air, no shower. It all adds up. Nobody took it worse than Jacob. It drove him nuts. Anyway, we were talking for some time, or I mean, I did most of the talking, but it seems it calmed him down. But one evening, it got really bad. Full-on panic attack. Heavy breathing, losing feeling in his arms, all of that. Eventually, I calmed him down and put him to sleep. I had to do something. With some stuff that had just been lying around, I built a little room for him. I took his sleeping body and placed him on some of the blankets into this thing that I built for him. After he woke up, in the middle of the night, we started talking, this time for real. Both. Talking, and he opened up to me. That was our first night. We stayed together after that. Eventually, others saw the structure, and slowly they started to approach me, you know, like, hey, Bolton, you think you might, maybe... And I wasn't going to say no, of course.
But how do you go from being on an aircraft to completely deconstructing it from the inside to create your very own environment?
If it wouldn't be for the obvious, I would say the best person to talk to about that would be Bolton. He used to be a carpenter, back on the ground. Very skilled guy. He would have been really the best option. Shame.
Obviously, you can't rebuild the whole interior in one day. It's not like one morning I woke up, took a crowbar, and started to wreak havoc on the seats. It's a slow process. You aren't sure if you're even allowed to do that. You feel obligated to obey the crew, even though by this time they were nowhere to be found. It took weeks and a lot of talking, trying bit by bit. Your room was the first step, but it was hardly a room, let's face it, like those castles that kids make. But nothing happened. Nobody stops you from doing that.
Which is weird, right? I feel like your upbringing somehow makes itself visible. You feel like you shouldn't.
But you can. So you just get a couple more blankets to soften the ground and so on until you start sawing the seats apart to build a makeshift wall. It sounds weird to you, I know, but it's an organic process. It keeps evolving. Upgrading and constructing the rooms created real bonds. I would say, even neighborhoods. We exchange parts that we can't use with somebody else who can, come around for visits, trade materials. As you can see, technically, we've improved quite a lot since last time. I'm quite proud of us, honestly.
Me too, but I feel like we left out Logan from this episode, and
Oh yeah, that's true.
he was the one who decided to call the reporter in the first place.
Logan! Yeah, you should tell the reporter here about the masks.
I'd love to. So I'm the main mask decorator here. We all carry one on ourselves all the time, so it's very important you make a good decision on how you wear it. First of all, of course, it has to look good, but practicality cannot be neglected. For example, I have mine like this. The bottle part is behind my belt. I haven't painted or done anything to it. I really like the metallic gray with the green. Then there's the tube, which I put under my shirt because I don't like it and I haven't really figured out how to enhance it yet.
That's just a matter of time.
But the yellow part, I took some regular seat canvas, boring you might say, but I have painted it with coffee, so now it has these really nice shapes, you see? But there's just so much more to it than looks. I mean, it has its own history, like my strings. There's a lot.
I mean, that's very true. It's a long story. Let's do that in another episode, shall we?